Welcome to everybody. Thank you for being here. We're going to be talking about sustainable bespoke design and just a quick intro. My name is Jessica Everhart and I'm with Cloth and Kind. We have a showroom based in Ann Arbor, but Michelle, who's here, she travels all over the state to see all of you wherever you might be. Ellisha, Alexina. We represent Elisha's wonderful textile lines, and Elisha's with us today from the Boston area. And then we have Anita
Sneideraitis
from Gunnar Olivier, and she has the Farrow and Ball line, which is fantastic. And then we have Monty Stauffer from the Kohler WasteLAB, who's joined us from Kohler, Wisconsin. Everyone just wants to give a little bit of an intro about themselves and what they do. I'll let you start, Ellisha.
Hi, so I am from Boston. I am a textile designer. I started my business about 10 years ago when I first graduated college. I created a technique that combines hand painting and silk screening. And from there, I just started showing designers and never said no, and the rest was history. We have fabrics by the yard, we do custom color, and we're to the trade only.
Hi, I'm Anita, and I do interior design work, and I rep Farrow and Ball for the design center and for the area in Michigan. And I originally was a artist who went into interior design and just have had a passion for paint and for color and for all things residential design and interior design. So I work with a lot of clients who are passionate also about color and design and wanting all those fabrics, textiles, and things like that. So
I'm Monty. I work for Kohler. I've been there 23 years. I started out as a ceramic artist and was hired on at Kohler as a designer. I worked mainly in the artist editions, doing glass, anything decorated, colored, texture. And then about 10 years ago, they started up this department called WasteLAB, and I took about 5 seconds to take the designer role there. I love materials. I love being dirty pretty much all day. And this to me was my dream job. So my role now is development, process development, material development. So for me, it's all about how we can utilize waste streams. So for me, this is my dream job. So, but you'll hear all about that later. So
love it. 3 artists. So just a first question. Sustainable and bespoke design suggests the fusion of personalization and environmental responsibility. How do each of you define this intersection in your work? Start with you, Ellisha.
So I think for me, it's really important that I've never been about trends. I've always derived the colors of the fabrics from natural plant dye studies. And although it's really interesting to see what like the color of the year is and all of that, we really don't dive into that as a leading factor of how we create. And so for me, that's important because we're building something that lasts. We're creating a product that has a lot of intention behind it, and we're not necessarily just leading with what society's telling us to do, which makes us more sustainable in a way because we're not just putting stuff out there to put stuff out there. We're putting stuff out there that we feel is intentional.
I would agree with that. So intentional design is kind of where we go with a lot of things that are included in just environmentally friendly products, whether it's natural products in linens or it's the paint, the low VOCs. We have a lot of people who request low VOC, and I think a lot of people here would agree that those requests are made by clients that we have to kind of meet that threshold. We also do a lot of rehoming of things that people aren't going to reuse in their homes. So we do a lot of making sure nothing ends up in a landfill. So there's a lot of Facebook Marketplace in my design work, just making sure that if something's not going to be used on the design project, that somebody is going to benefit from having it and things like that. So we really try to intersect things that are either elevated that people have that are meaningful to them. Let's say it's a grandmother or parent or somebody that has handed something down. We try to elevate that in the design. We try to make sure that things are reused and repurposed.
Yeah, for us, our take on the bespoke would be we only try to use our own waste materials, and we get to design those materials in basically any way we can to make a beautiful product. So uh, Kohler is this behemoth machine that is trying to pump out a lot of product, beautiful product. But we're a small little design department, manufacturing department, so we get to really take a look at what we're manufacturing, what we're designing, and use these specific waste materials, waste streams to make these beautiful products. So for us, it's about designing what we really want to make, what the customer wants to make, and making sure that it's sustainable in the way that we want it to be. We don't compromise on those sustainable goals. We don't greenwash it. We don't just put 10% material in. We make sure it has the highest amount of waste stream in it. And for us, that was really important. So for us, that's our own bespoke idea, I guess, that we can control the amount of material that goes into it, and we get to really control that design in that material.
How do you each see the consumer expectation shifting in terms of sustainability and customization in the home?
I think people really crave connection. I think now more than ever, people are really starting to ask questions that they maybe weren't asking 5, 10 years ago. Like for our textiles, it's, what's the content? What's the pigment? Are there any harmful additives to your process? And, that brings me joy because it's showing that people are really starting to care about what they consume, which I think is a good direction to all be going to.
I would also agree. People are asking questions. They're also having more of a less is more mentality, which I think is amazing because then we're designing spaces that may not be huge, but we're designing them in a very intentional, mindful way. And people are starting to want to branch out of the whites and the grays and the things like that. And they're looking at what is the product made of? What is the product? What does the company stand by? What are their values? So that kind of stuff is now they're researching. And with the internet, it's become very, very easy for them to find all that information. And I think after those years of lead paints and all those chemicals that we're trying to take out of the home, people are now very committed to making sure that what they're putting in their home is healthy.
Yeah, I think that's very important. The values that a company has. So it's not really a secondary decision now. It's becoming the forefront of people's decisions when they're shopping. People almost are demanding that sustainability be a part of a consumer experience, and that's something that Kohler is noticing or has noticed a lot. So that's very important to a customer now, and that was one of the reasons why we formed the WasteLAB. So I think that is one of the things that we really noticed that is not an option anymore. That's something that the customer is really looking for when they're looking for product and even custom products. They want to know what is the story behind your product.
So this question is for Ellisha. Your textiles are handcrafted and deeply personal. How do you balance the need for artistic individuality with the broader goals of sustainability in your sourcing and your production?
So I think being artistic and sustainable aren't, they're not odds. They're almost something that brings a lot of value to what we do. So for one, like we're printed all in the United States. We're not a mass production company. We print to order. We do a lot of custom to make sure that things are going smoothly so we're not overproducing. Everything is hand sketched and hand done in our studio. And we're a small studio on purpose for that reason. We didn't want to like overconsume the designers. We know that there's a lot out there. So again, just going back to being intentional about how you design and create and produce your product. For us, it's about having a piece that has like a heritage to it. So the idea that you're investing in this textile or this, chair at the end of the day that's in your nursery and then your child's 5 and still in that chair. So for us, it's about passing on what we do and not just making something that's disposable.
Anita, Farrow and Ball is known for the richly pigmented eco-friendly paints. Can you share how the paint formulas and color choices reflect a bespoke but still sustainable approach?
Yes. So very low VOC. They have a great rating in making sure that everything that they do is environmentally conscious. They have a solar powered facility in Dorset, England. And then the creative director, Charlotte Cosby, is very passionate about using a lot of the nature in her decisions in the color palettes that she curates. So all of those things kind of incorporate their mindset, and that they're very committed to recycling their cans and everything and making those products available to be recycled. So, and then having that water-based formula to make sure that it is environmentally friendly.
Monty, Kohler WasteLAB transforms industrial waste into beautiful, functional design pieces. How do you turn discarded material into products without compromising environmental ethics?
Yeah, that's a good question. So our main goal, excuse me, is to really look at what the waste streams are that Kohler's producing and focus on those as our new raw materials. So this is something I'll talk about a lot in my talk, but we see those waste streams as our new virgin materials. So instead of thinking them as something that we're going to throw out, we really focus on those as how can we make those the only materials that we use for our products. So, I mean, of course, you're going to have to add some virgin materials to balance color, balance flow of glazes and those kind of things, but we try to keep those to as minimum as possible. Our tiles are 98% landfill bound waste. And we really try to focus on keeping it as much waste as possible without compromising how we produce them. So any manufacturing produces waste, and we're trying to lower that by just using what we have in our waste streams. So
Okay. Bespoke often means small batch or handcrafted, which can increase cost and sometimes resource use. How do each of you address the tension between scale, affordability, and sustainability?
I think that there's a difference between price and value. I think that there's an emotional attachment to a product. So it's not so much about what it costs, but what kind of value does it bring to your project or your life? Again, going back to the questions of, do you want this mass-produced fabric with God only knows what kind of chemicals on it, or are you going to source from a local small batch textile company? To me, that there's a value in that.
Yeah, and I would talk about a lot of fewer choices but better choices. Maybe having those quality materials within all the choices that you make. They may be a little bit more expensive, but then they go a little bit further. They last a little bit longer. That whole IKEA type of mentality, I think, has kind of dissipated, where we're buying furniture and it only lasts, or it only is good for a year, but then that seems like a waste of the investment you made. So people are more willing to invest a little bit more so that they can have it longer. And then also, like with Farrow and Ball, they have a 480 square foot coverage on their products. So it goes longer, it goes farther. And so even though it's 1 gallon compared to some other companies, which is less than 400. So they're always thinking about that kind of stuff, and then making furniture that can be refinished. So we talk about this is a great investment. And in 10 years, if your son or your daughter nicks it or hits it or scratches it, you can just, refinish something and it still will be just like you had bought it. So it's just having those materials and those solid materials that are durable.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's an investment for sure. Like we mentioned before, people are looking for that sustainability. They want to feel good about what they're purchasing. For us, it's always about the design. People want to buy something beautiful first. That's obviously what they're attracted to. Then they feel good about the purchase because of the sustainability as well. That's important to them. We're a small department. It's all handmade artisan tile, so it is a little bit more of an investment, but it does have that story of sustainable product, and it does make a customer feel good. And that is one of the reasons why they would push them to, purchase that little bit more expensive tile. So, and now 6.
So are there any sustainability compromises you've had to make in the name of personalization or vice versa? And how do you navigate that?
So I think for us, if it doesn't align with our values, then we don't do it. Which there was this one time a designer had called me and said, we really want your fabric to be part of this boutique project at this hotel, but we're going to need it made overseas because we need the price point to be X, Y, and Z. And one of the biggest lessons I learned from that was, yes, I didn't get that order that I would have loved to have gotten, but my values stayed intact. So that to me meant a lot. But then there's also compromise of like all of our color studies are derived from natural plant dye studies, but we can't actually print with plant dye studies. So in a sense, like we go to the water-based pigment instead. So, not everything can be as sustainable as you wish for it to be, but you can make the right choices to make sure that your product has that longevity in it and it's not doing any harm.
So I think Fear and Ball has set a really good trajectory in not compromising. So when you work with a company that's not willing to compromise, you kind of have that ability to say, you know what, we're not going to compromise on this. We're going to figure this out in a different way. So finding more creative ways within the design process, within having conversations with your clients and being passionate about how it's going to benefit them. A lot of the time, it just takes a little bit of convincing, and it is usually budgetary. The challenge is how much is it going to cost, and that conversation is always, well, it may cost a little bit more here, but we can save here. So those are the conversations we try to do. Try to really put a focus on what's important within their design and their values, and then having them understand that this is part of their value, their history, their life, their home, and their health. So sometimes it takes a little convincing, but usually after a short conversation, they really get it.
Yeah, for us, it was about putting as much waste as possible into our tile at first, and for us, it was a compromise to get color. So you can only get so much color out of waste streams. So it was a big challenge for us because we had to get over this mental hurdle of buying something off of a store shelf to get a color. And that was kind of ridiculous when we look back on it, because the amount of pigment you put in a glaze to get color is tiny, tiny, tiny. So for us, it was the difference between 98.8 and 98.7 or ish. So for us, it was, let's get as much waste as we can into the product. If buying a little bit of virgin material helps us get more waste into the product, then it makes sense. We do some products that are 70% waste, but some of those products have 300 pounds of waste in them. And that to us is huge. Like that's a big step towards getting zero, waste to landfill. So for us, it's a little bit of a compromise. Of course, we want to make sure it's all waste, but if the big goal is to get zero to landfill, then that helps us that way. So,
what sustainable materials or methods are you most excited about right now that enable greater creative freedom in your design?
So I think one of the biggest trends this year, if you see on like Instagram or TikTok or even like Pinterest, is that collected, like storied home. And I love it. Like where it's just like, let's collect what we love and do what we love. And I feel like I keep talking about trends, but I feel like it's kind of trending to not be trendy right now. And I love that because you're able to do whatever you want, like not use the whites. You can use whatever Farrow and Ball color you love. And it's unapologetic. So for us and how we create things, I think, again, going back to small batch, being intentional is really important. But yeah, I just love how lately, like the custom color projects we've been getting are matching colors that you never would see coming, because there's a love and an emotional attachment to what they already have in the home or what they really love, and the individuality of like where things are headed, I really like.
Yeah, the first conversation I have with my clients typically is, what do we love? What is the one thing that we love in this room? What color do we love? What's your favorite textures? And that kind of drives the design. And when people buy into that, they really appreciate that their home is now becoming theirs and that there aren't really any hurdles. So I'm an avid problem solver. So if this isn't going to fit here, where are we going to put that? How is that going to work into a design in another room? Or how is that going to work in the overall picture? And if we love it, then we're going to use that as our main focus, and then we'll add around that. We'll build around the design based on that one thing. So I'm excited about the fact that a lot of the clients are very involved. I like that they're involved. I want their home to feel like it's theirs and there's a story being told throughout their home, and that they love every piece of their home and every part, and then that they feel comfortable. And then when people are bringing guests in their home, it really is something that they can walk around and just be proud of.
Yeah, this is a really good question. So I was talking to the powers that be, and I can't tell you, but no. So the most exciting material to me is always the next one, right? It's I love exploring materials. I'm an artist. I love getting dirty. I just love creating with whatever we have, and it's always what's the next thing? What's the new thing that we can come up with? So for me, it's always what's the next thing? What can we make different? How can we change something? So it's that exploration. It's the idea of playing with everything. So for me, it's the next thing. That's always the most exciting.
How can storytelling of the maker, the material, or the process enhance the perceived value and longevity of sustainable and custom design?
Well, I think that price is a reflection of how it's produced, how something's produced, right? So we really just tell a story of how we create what we make, and it starts in our studio in Boston. We have a paint mixing station where we color mix our paints, and we have mood boards, and the sun's glaring in, and it's a really wonderful place to be. And then we do short runs of product. So if you order 100 yards, it has to be broken up in increments because our tables are just not that long. So the more hands that touch our product, to me, the better. I feel like that helps tell the story of how this fabric got here, and hopefully it gives you a better sense of value of what we do, because so many hands have touched it, and that's really important to me.
I think the products speak for themselves a lot. And with Farrow and Ball, I noticed that when we do use it in a room, that room becomes a room that people are naturally drawn to. It's got that real depth of color that just draws you into the space. And I always say that it's very three-dimensional when you're going into the room, and it's just rich. And having that kind of product just is naturally going to buy-in for a lot of clients, and they want to have that feeling. They want to love the space that they're living in. And so we talk a lot about good home being a well-lived home, and that we're going to live there. We're not going to make it the Smithsonian, and we're going to live there, and we're going to want to be in these spaces, and we want to actually spend time there.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of going around Detroit area with people from Anne-Sachs yesterday and talking to some showrooms and designers and sharing the story of the WasteLAB, and it was incredible. So, I mean, people are drawn to the design of the tiles. Obviously, that's the first thing that they see when you see a product, is what it looks like. But then you understand the story behind the item, whatever it is, if it's the fabric or the paint or whatever, and you hear how it came about, the people behind it, the reason behind it, and you make a connection with those things, and that's really what kind of pushes you to invest in it, because it's an investment. If it's more expensive, or if it's something that it's a lot of money, or it's more than I really want to spend, or maybe I can do a feature wall of it because I really love it and the story was incredible. So the story is like 50% at least of that product. I think it's so important.
So I'm kind of going to blend together these next two questions. So how do you help your clients understand the value of investing in sustainable and bespoke interiors? And what language or strategies have you found successful when explaining how to do this?
I think starting small, like starting one piece at a time, is really important if it feels overwhelming. Um, I think that it's kind of like once you do it and you see the greater good in it and you see how good it feels, you probably want to keep going. So it's kind of like going to the gym for the first time. You go and then eventually you end up liking it. So same with sustainability. Like it's nerve wracking to take that leap, and there's so much information and like, is it trendy? Is it this? And just follow your gut and work with sustainable brands. Honestly, like it's important, and I think that you'll end up wanting to do more and more and more once you see how good it feels to do something thoughtfully.
Yeah, I would start somewhere. Start small. Start with educating yourself as a designer, educating your client, talking to the painters. A lot of the people that are installing the products, they need to know what it is. They need to know how it works, why it's important. Our clients need to be educated, as well as just starting with the things that we love. And then once we have that one thing, then we go to the second thing, and then the third thing, and then we continuously talk about that sustainability, just making sure things are non-toxic, making sure that they understand it's important for them that things are not toxic, and that they understand what kind of materials are involved and what their choices are going to be. So it could be just small, and start small and then build on top of that small block.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the technology has changed so much from what it used to be. I mean, sustainability means so much more than it used to be 30 years ago. Dating myself, obviously, but it's not hemp and bamboo and wicker. I mean, those things are great. Don't get me wrong, but it can even be plastic. So I think educating people, telling them to do some research, like look at what it means to be sustainable. Start small, start slow. But really look at what it means to be sustainable and how you can incorporate some of those things into your home, because the technology around sustainability is changing so fast that the things that you didn't think could be sustainable, maybe now. So I think it's really about the education. It's really about learning what it is now. So, yeah.
Okay, and looking forward, if we look forward in 10 years, what do each of you think the future of a sustainable and custom home will look like? What are some of the biggest shifts you're working toward? And what role do you think designers and architects play in shaping this movement?
I hope it looks a lot quieter. I hope that it's not so trendy to be sustainable and that it just is sustainable, that you are making those decisions because you know it feels good and you know it's the right thing. I think that, I just hope it's just what we do. It's just part of the future. I know a lot of like bigger companies are trying to get there, but starting with the home is where it really does start, where you live and where you sleep and where you create your memories and grow. It's so important for that space to feel clean and happy and bring you joy. So I hope in the future sustainability isn't a trend anymore. It's just like what we do.
I agree. I think good ingredients make good food. So just encouraging people to keep that in mind when it comes to making choices. Architects and builders, I would love to never see a contractor in a hazmat suit. That would be nice. Just to demo or to have to do any kind of work with a respiratory mask. I think that if we can get to a point where all of those old materials are no longer in existence, but every material that is now put into construction is safe for everybody in the home or anybody working on the home.
Yeah, I think this was already touched on, but I mean, the newer generations that are coming up are kind of growing into this idea of sustainability, not as a new word, but just as an expected part of culture. It's not something that they have to go looking for. It's just something that is expected. So in 10 years, I don't think sustainability will be an outlier. It'll just be that's what you expect when you go looking for a product. So I think designers and builders, it's not going to be a struggle. It's just going to be that's what it is. And that's what it should be. I mean, I'll probably touch on this a little bit later, but we're not getting more materials. So if we can reuse a house, the materials that are in it, those are the kind of things that we're going to have to expect. So, yeah.
Okay. And the last question, what is like the single best piece of advice that each of you can offer to designers who want to just the best piece of advice on pursuing sustainable and personalization and where to start?
Say it starts with us. It starts with the materials you use, the people you work with, transparency. I think we all in this room have more power than we think, and we should use it.
I would encourage people to start a library of things and companies that they want to use, different products, different materials. And then just once you start building this whole list of libraries of things that are sustainable or that are healthy or that are good for the environment or from companies that are conscious of that, then that's everything you're drawing from. So to have that library of things that you can just pull from, it makes it easier. You don't have to think too hard about it. And you can constantly keep using those companies and supporting those companies because those are the companies we want to continue to have for the future of design and of materials that we're putting into homes.
Yeah, I mean, go to Kohler.com. No, okay. So I agree. I mean, it's just start with what is sustainable. Where can I mean, sustainability, Google. I mean, those are basic things you can do. But what does it mean to you? Where do what is it? What do I want in my home? Those are kind of the basic things that you start with, and then sharing that with your family. And it's not that hard. I don't think it's that hard. So start small. I mean, we've kind of talked about that.
Okay. Well, this has been great. I wanted to thank everybody who has worked so hard to make this possible today. Claire from Ann Sachs, Craig from the Design Center, Anita, Michelle from Cloth and Kind, back from our team. And yeah, enjoy lunch, and then we will resume with Monty's presentation and get to know a little bit more about Kohler and his project. So thank you.
Thank you.